Welcome to Two Wheels, Many Blessings. Michael Henao is a motorcycle enthusiast based in Boulder, Colorado. We met Michael at Amy and Brian's wedding, and Brian introduced me, and Michael was a curious guy. He asked me about my riding, but we really didn't have much time to talk. Then I noticed Michael was riding with the Thailand Motor Tour guys in Colorado, and then he was riding with them in Africa, and he was riding with them in Thailand. We thought, is this guy rich? And then we met Michael at the Isle of Man. We spent a week with him and got to know him much better. Michael is just a gig economy type of guy who loves motorcycles, fabrication, and content creation. Hey now, welcome to Two Wheels, Many Blessings. You don't just race, you build, you wrench, you teach, you lead riders on global tours around Colorado and Thailand. So those are listening, strap in, rev it up. Michael Henao. How's it going, Michael?
It's going well, Mark. It's going well. Yep, you pretty much nailed it. Not just doing one of the many things you can do on two wheels, but really a true enthusiast, and I love the competition for myself. I love teaching to give back, and then just the purity of just enjoying it, if it's a tour, back road, or on a dirt bike in the mountains somewhere.
Yeah. So when did you start riding motorcycles?
My first two-wheeled engine was I technically inherited it at 14. It was a 1982 Sosh moped. Walking in a buddy's garage, and I saw it, and I'm like, hey, what's up with that thing? And he kind of looked at it. He's like, if you could fix it, you could have it. So loaded that bad boy up, and I got it going pretty much around 15 years old was when I was twisting the throttle, mixing gas and hauling ass. 30 miles per hour. Like a legit moped where it had like the bicycle pedals. It was a
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretty sweet. But that was it, man. That was my entry level. No family. My uncle had a bike, and it was kind of like the eye candy. But it was something that I gotta get on that.
Right. So I saw somewhere that you were welding. You have welding skills, hands-on mechanic skills. You do all kinds of hustling, adventures around Boulder and ChampMini and Henao Racing. So you don't seem like a 9 to 5 type of guy like I am. So how do you juggle that lifestyle?
It is a wild lifestyle. It is high pace. It's random. You never know. I feel like there is no day off. The joke is like it's just another day. Back in when I was younger, I had a job with the Coast Guard base. I was a government civilian employee down in South Beach. I worked in the weld shop, and that was, my 6:30. That was my 6:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. job. That was my 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and I left that for the chasing the dreams of racing motorcycles, and it's been wild. It's been wild. It's quite the lifestyle, and definitely a lot of irons in the fire. Like you said, if it's the personal private coaching that I do here in Colorado with mini bikes, or if I get poached by customers that want to take me to cater to their wants and needs. Also a champ school senior instructor.
We seem to be having some technical difficulties, so we'll jump to our sponsorships. The COTA MotoGP event was great. Thanks for all of you who stopped by the booth. Look for the Isle of Man replicas coming out soon. And follow KYT Americas on Instagram, Facebook, and at kytamericas.com. Thailand Motor Tours. New seasons opening. Check out their Instagram, Facebook, and thailandmotortours.com and book your tours now. I think we're going to get back to Michael. Okay, let's go back. You seem to enjoy teaching about riding through working at Champ School, teaching kids on mini motos and leading motorcycle tours in Colorado and Thailand. When did you know that you enjoyed teaching?
Teaching, I would say, again, naturally, anyone that showed interest in anything I liked, I was just like always stoked to be like, oh, you like this? I like it too. Like, yeah, can I help you? You want to do it together? Like, check it out. Here's my paintball gun. Here, shoot my bow and arrow. Oh, here's a BB gun. Like, let's go make a fire. Like,
Anything.
whatever. Yeah, anything. It was just fun to share. So, and growing up in an awesome family in the sense of it was a lot of cousins, and we were all really close in age. So it was just like every time we got together, it was like, you know, let's terrorize and see what kind of shit we get into.
You are a high octane guy. You've publicly said that you're an adrenaline junkie and a two wheel maniac. So, where does that wild, relentless drive come from?
You know, I don't know, but fun fact. This is a really cool special fun fact. Is I'm one of three. I have an older brother and a younger sister. And I remember a really fun compliment that my mom vocalized to family members. She said out of the three kids when she was pregnant, she said I was the one that just like never stayed still, was always kicking and punching, and she just had this feeling. She's like, I have no idea what's up with this kid, but he's gonna be a handful. And that's kind of funny to kind of reflect on that now. In my younger age, I was definitely the black sheep of the family, climbing trees. Didn't really care too much for following the rules and just wanted to do my own thing. And then I experienced certain life experiences that kind of like put me in check to where I found one motorcycles, and I felt like motorcycles was like, holy shit, like this is where I could let it hang. This is where you can't mess around, you can't make mistakes. Like this is where you can't be rebellious, defiant. Like you have to respect it. And but it's this freedom, dude. Riding a motorcycle is the closest thing to true freedom. Feeling that wind, looking down, seeing that ground, smelling different smells every X amount of distance. Like instant climate changes, right? You live anywhere with altitude changes like Colorado. I mean, you could feel the 2, 3 degree, 8 degree changes instantly. And the vibration of everything about it. Everything about a motorcycle is just pure freedom. And yeah, when I came across that, you know, even with my 1982 Sash moped that did a whopping 30 miles per hour full pin, and until I put a pipe on it, and then I got it to 35. It was I didn't care, man. Two wheels and an engine. It was truly yeah. Uh, it was truly the biggest gift that has come into my life because of how much change it put me from like a wild child without direction and gave me this awesome path of direction. I'm just so happy to be in the position where I'm in now, where I can share and give and be in a respected community where it's like, oh shit, hey now competes, but man, the guy also can tell you so much about how to improve your riding.
Cool. You won Pikes Peak, what, in 2013? Is that right?
Yep. So 2012 was my rookie year. I moved to Colorado end of 2011. There's a gentleman, Jerry Cigarelli, who was my instructor. I went to a California Superbike school in 2010 or 11, and he was my instructor. Lived in Colorado, so we became friends over social media. I moved to Colorado in 2012. There was a big fire. He was racing XR 1200 AMA back in the day, and he was originally going to race up Pikes Peak on this XR 1200. The fires came through. They blocked. It was so bad that they had to postpone Pikes Peak, so they pushed it a month back, and it fell on the same date as Indianapolis AMA. So he sent out a post, hey, looking for a replacement rider who's interested. Pikes Peak, 3 weeks to go. Trying to find someone to take my spot. And he said I was the first person to respond with a lot of enthusiasm. And he's like, sure, let's figure something out. And that was, dude, I knew nothing about the bike. All I knew was Pikes Peak was badass, and it sounded cool. And I did a lot of stupid street stuff in South Florida. When I got a sport bike when I was 18, and I was doing all the silly things, skateboarding pants, blue jeans, t-shirt, but I wore my gloves and I wore my helmet, so I thought I was protected. And I can't confirm or deny if I ran from cops once or twice a weekend, but you know, just a lot of stupid hooligan stuff. Had my injuries. I remember, probably the biggest one. Um, my first one was a simple low side, and then the biggest one was hitting the back of a pickup truck at about 100 miles per hour,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, I hit the back of the pickup truck, and I remember I looked behind me to look for a buddy, and when I looked in front of me, the lane became a merge lane, so everyone started checking up. And I went to the brakes hard, hard, hard. I remember coming up on the front wheel, and I started to tank slap. Rear wheel hits the back of the pickup truck. It was like a movie, dude. I go over the bed I thought I was gonna fall into the bed of the pickup truck, but I went off to the right side of it. I went over the bed, and I remember seeing the road and the car right next to me. And somehow my right arm hooked the inside of the bed liner, and I kind of like swung 180 degrees, and I'm hanging off the passenger side of the pickup truck with my feet in the air, looking at my motorcycle spinning on the highway, a car 3 feet to my left that if I wouldn't have been able to hook the bed liner, for sure I would have, he would have most likely ran me over. But anyways, I'm sitting there hanging, and then the guy's not stopping. I tap the truck. Eventually he stops. I stand up on my 2 feet, and I go to walk, and I'm like, man, my left foot feels like a balloon. What's going on? I look down, and I can see my Achilles tendon. I can see the bone. It like opened it up really bad. I'm like, ooh, that's not good. So kicked up on the back of the pickup truck, ambulance, all that crap. Go to the hospital. Parents visit you. They're like, what's wrong with you? And that was like the big gnarly one. And then it wasn't until I was 19. It was summer of 2009 that I got exposed to a racetrack, and that was a really cool, universal alignment. I go to a Mudvayne concert with my cousins, right? My cousins, we all did fun stuff together. I went to a Mudvayne concert, and the facility where they were holding a Mudvayne concert was attached to a racetrack, Palm Beach International Raceway. And it was the first time they were racing under the lights, so it was a big event. So they had a concert going on the fields, they had a motorcycle racing under the lights, and all my cousins went to the concert, and I'm like, hey, this looks really cool. And I walked to the motorcycle side to check it out, and I bumped into someone that I knew, Bill Phillips. I saw his Yamaha RD 400. I'm like, oh, I know this bike. Like, I know who built this bike. And he shows up, and we started talking, and I'm like, dude, this looks really cool. How do you get into this? He's like, oh, I'll show you around. So he shows me around, and he introduced me to people. I remember meeting Tomas Puerta, Andres Londoño, Stefano Mesa, Sean Dwyer, just met some local legends at the time. And I think even Robertino Pietro was there. Michael Carrera, no, not Carrera, Michael Corbino. Anyways, and then at the end of that, he's like, hey, I tell you what, before you take your bike, because I had a ZX6R by then, before you take your big bike to the big track, come with me. I have a Honda 150R mini moto with 12-inch wheels. It's fully protection. It has full protection on it. I've crashed it over 100 times. You can't do anything to hurt the bike. Come to a go-kart track with me and ride this before you go to the big bike track. I'm like, okay, sounds like a plan. So he gives me his number. We make plans, and it was really cool how it worked out. He's like, let's go to Palm Beach on a Saturday night, which was 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. He's like, and then you can go to Homestead Speedway on a Sunday morning from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it was just the way it worked out. So I'm like, okay, game on, let's do it. And I went, I met up with him, had a blast. I remember crashing 3 times. One of the times I crashed, I got split by 2 riders, right? You're a total noob. You don't know what the heck's going on. And one rider comes up on the inside, one rider comes up on the outside. I get scared. I grab the front brakes and low side tuck. And one of the guys that passed me in that split was Stefano Mesa. He was like 14 years old, like the young gun coming up, which is pretty funny because now he's like a top level MotoAmerica guy. And yeah, I crashed 3 times that night. I remember the last crash was the only one that kind of tickled me, where the handlebar hit the back of my knee, where you don't have much protection on leathers. But I was fine. Nothing happened. But I just remember like, whoa, this is crazy. Like I'm crashing and I'm picking up the bike and I'm going again. Like, man, mini motos, dirt bikes, go-kart tracks, a lot to be explored there as far as a stepping stone into the sport.
Right. Absolutely.
Yep. And then
You then transitioned to Daytona 200 and MotoAmerica. So how did you fund all that?
Yeah, well, well, the it was an exciting amateur year in South Florida, and working with the Coast Guard base, making good money and some savings and stuff like that. I you get excited. Like I said, it's like a drug. You know, you want that next hit, you want that next hit. But it got to a point where I was pretty much at a bottom, at a zero. And what I ended up doing was I got so tired of South Florida, and I was just, there was some things going on where I just needed a big reset button. And I'm like, you know what? Can't go any lower than where I'm at, so might as well just reset. And the end of 2011, I moved to Colorado. And when I went to Colorado, racing was not my priority as much as I wanted to make it a priority. It just wasn't feasible at the time. I've always been very self-funded. I can wrench things and build things, but it was, the monetary support to get to the track, sign up for the races, pay for the tires, all that. Um, so when I went to Colorado, I just kind of cherry picked. Like I said, that in 2012, I had the opportunity to do the wild card on the XR 1200 for Pikes Peak. Accumulated some money for that from friends that helped me out to get there. Someone let me rent a Ninja 250, and there's a cool spec class in the local road racing series MRA. And I went out there my first weekend and got second place, and everyone was like, holy shit, like this is a very competitive class. Who are you? And then in 2013, I got my Kawasaki from South Florida and brought it out to Colorado and sent a letter to Pikes Peak the next year, 2013. And when they opened up registration, I didn't quite have all the money yet. So I sent them this letter like, hey guys, I came out last year. I was on the XR 1200. It was not my bike. The thing was a pain in the ass and a handful to ride. It was very sketch. It wanted to buck me off. But this year I got my Kawasaki. I promise if you guys give me an extension to pay, like I'm gonna perform really well. Please, please, please. Can you just give me 4 weeks? And they responded. They said we'll give you 2 weeks. And I was able to scratch up the dough in the 2 weeks, work some extra overtime. And then I showed up that year by myself, single cab, 1991 Ford Ranger, no bumper, 5 speed. And yeah, and was kind of fast out of the gate, a strong top 10 overall, like as far as like qualifying and practice, going against some big names. And it was a really awesome experience as a privateer. The local sweep guys who were like local Colorado guys saw me by myself, and they're like, hey, where's your crew? I'm like, I am my crew. And they're like, oh dude, fit with us, like we'll help you load the bike, like we don't want you to be by yourself. And that was fun. And I remember one time I went to go look at the timing and scoring sheets at Pikes Peak, and I'm sitting there and some guy's looking at the timing sheet, and he's like, who's this Michael Henao? And I'm saying that, so I'm like, oh, that's me. He's like, dude, he's like, I never heard your name before, but you're like right here with, Carlin Dunn and Nikki Diamond and some big names. And I'm like, yeah. And he asked about the bike, and then of course, right, what do? They look at the bike. Oh, what do you got in it? I'm like, bro, it's a 2006 stock ZX6R with pump gas. like I don't know what to tell you, but I promise that it's not the bike.
So with
And yeah, that was a phenomenal year.
yeah,
I set the record. I finished fourth overall out of 87 competitors. The class was Superbike 750. That was the only year they ran that class, so that's a forever record. And second place was around a minute behind my time. So
wow,
it was yeah, pretty sweet.
yeah, and they don't race bikes there anymore. So
Yep. As of
unfor
2019,
yeah,
unfortunately.
unfortunately, yeah, yeah, it was a lot different when I did it because it wasn't fully paved. So, and I was on a KX 250. So, what's the single biggest lesson that racing has taught you?
Oh, that's a good question, man. Racing on competition. Little details make big differences. That would be a big one. And the level of focus and respect you need to have for the sport. It's you hear it so commonly in life. Oh, well, that's just life. Oh, life isn't unfair. Like, oh, you just never know. Well, let me tell you, in the world of racing, it's the same thing. And it's just so cool to be in something that when you practice, when you're in that practice and that state of mind, it's like a form of exercising for just a healthy way to approach life in general.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree with that. I
yeah.
that's I learned a lot about riding. You have to be ready. You have to be there. You have to be there before everybody else, or they're going to leave. The race starts without you,
Yeah.
so they're not going to wait for you. That's for
Hmm.
darn sure. So you do Henao racing and all the privateer stuff. Obviously, wrenching on your own bikes. You talked about. Do you remember the first time did you ever have to fabricate something or weld on a bike?
The first time, yeah, let me think about that. Well, that pickup truck I went into the back of, I pushed the front tire into the headers and cracked the frame at the neck. So that was, I didn't weld it, but I need a new frame. But I guess one of the fun things I currently have is I have a 150R. I call it my B bike. It's B now. My name's Hey Now, so that one's my B now. And then I have my A now. Um, but B now has a stator cover that I crashed one time, and the shifter went through it, and I TIG welded that to seal it up. So every time I ride that bike and I see that weld spot, it's like, that's my signature. Oh, I repaired that. Oh, I remember that.
Right,
Um, so that's kind of fun. And then just over the times I've welded rims that I've cracked on curbings, and
right,
just silly stuff. But yeah,
right.
exhaust, I've made exhaust as well. So.
You launched like ChampMini and Super GP. What's the hardest part about turning your passion for racing into a business, a sustainable business?
Ooh, man, you'll hear this across the board. Motorcycle community can be some very frugal people. So it's it's difficult to tap into something that's already so niche, especially, in my opinion, in the States. It's if you go other places in the world, Colombia, that's my background, that's my ethnic background is Colombia, and motorcycles it's not a luxury there, it's a lifestyle, and you see that anywhere across the world. You and I have been in Thailand together, and that's when you see the father with the wife and the two or three kids on a scooter, and they cruise by you in a dirt road, you're just like, huh, okay. It's a way of life out there. It's the means of life out there. And 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 yeah, to try to make it in the States as a pure income, if it's instruction, if it's buy fix flip, if it's whatever, it's so tough. You see the success seems to be in that, taking one focus, one practice. If it is the dealership that, you know, sells used motorcycles, if it is the badass race shop. I live here in Boulder, and the local shop is Boulder Motorsports, which is, known nationwide as like the one of the Ducati places to go to. Great success, but you see the other shop that's just struggling, or there for a couple of years and then it's out or whatever. So it's it's a lot of irons in the fire. Teaching, fixing, flipping. This year, I'm starting my own Supermoto Moto 3 series in Colorado. It's a 6-round championship. I'm actually about 12 days out for the first event. That's going to be on May 3rd out in Grand Junction. This is something I've always wanted to do. I think Colorado has amazing go-kart tracks, uh, and true supermoto setup where it's, that 70% pavement, 30% dirt, with off-road sections that are actually like, have doubles, have the jumps, have the berms, like really nice. So yeah, so really stoked on doing that. So it's just, again, just when is it gonna, I feel like all these ingredients and pieces are coming together, and something has to come out of it. So I'm just gonna keep my nose to the grindstone, keep pushing with my heart, and see what happens.
Yeah. So you're getting ready to go to champ school tomorrow. What would be the fundamental difference between a fast rider and being a smart rider, in your opinion?
Oh, consistency, and the practice of perfect practice. I would say that's it, right? If you consistently practice perfect practice, naturally, 100%, hands down, money back guaranteed, your progress is always going to be going in the right direction in a linear form. Like,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
Period.
You gotta practice the right way. That's for darn
Correct.
sure. Yeah. So so when you go to champ school or the ChampMini stuff that you do, you're teaching 12-year-olds and 50-year-olds, or mostly you're doing the young kids?
So with Champ School, we're renting out, big proper racetracks, and we have big bikes. I think the youngest we'll do there is 14 years,
Okay.
and they'll be kind of like on an ultra lightweight platform, which would be like an R3 or something like that. And then up to, you never know. There was this one guy, Bill Murray. He's a pretty funny guy, but 72 years old was the first time he ever threw his leg over a motorcycle.
Wow.
And yeah, he got to the point, worked all his life, and he was like, I've always wanted to do this. So looked up a school, and I feel fortunate enough that I was the instructor that got hooked up with him, because I just thought it was just such a cool story. Like, wait a second, you've never ridden a motorcycle? Like, nope, nope, nope. I'm like, not even a dirt bike? Not, nope, nope. I'm like, okay, cool. And yeah, since then he's done tours around the world. He actually has been to Thailand with Thailand Moto Tours, and yeah,
Oh, okay.
cool. Yeah, yeah, cool guy. So yeah, you never know. All ages, all sizes, all skill levels. And then with the mini bike stuff, here locally where I do my mini bike program, that could be as young as 4 to 5 years old, and then same thing, working with people that could be easily in their 70s.
Right.
So yeah, it doesn't matter. And again, another highlight for mini bikes is, everyone talks about racing big bikes and racing all this other stuff. I think it's so cool to have a platform where you see a father and son, and there's a couple that I think of, Jason Grant and Liam Grant. They're father son, and I remember I met them, and the dad, like, was fortunate enough to have the budget to be like, okay, I want to get into this with my kids, and he bought the NSF 50, he bought all these different bikes, and it was all different sizes and everything. And then I met him. I'm like, dude, make your life simple. Go buy two Honda 150Rs with 12-inch wheels on them, and you and your son can go have fun.
Right.
And he did that, and they got to race together. And he comes up to me one day. He's like, I think I just experienced one of the coolest days I've ever had on a motorcycle. He's like, what's up? He's like, it's the first time that me and my son were battling on track, and he beat me to the line. And I don't know if I'm ever going to beat him again. And he didn't. He said that was the last one, but it was just like that cool experience that you cannot get that, right? You, as a 50-year-old father with your 12-year-old son, you can't get that in MotoAmerica.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't get that in the local club racing, but in mini bikes you can. And again, another beautiful thing that I'm an advocate of mini bikes, and really that's where I'm putting a lot of focus and attention in lately.
What would be one technique that you wish every rider that comes to your school would know before they got on the pavement?
Beautiful. Well, on this topic, there's, people talk about racing and street riding, and some people have this theory that they're different. And I strongly believe no, they're different in degree of application, but as far as inputs go on the motorcycle, no. And MSF teaches or I should say, New Rider Schools teaches three things that just set up riders for failure. Number one reason motorcyclists hurt themselves or kill themselves is by themselves, running wide in corner entries, right?
Yep.
And so we want to think about the big three things, and if there is one of these techniques that's like a technique that is like number one, I don't care who you are, if you're Valentino Rossi or you're the person that's just threw your leg over, if you're Murray at 72 years old that just threw your leg over the bike, it's whenever something tells you that I'm nervous, I need to slow down, I need to roll out of the gas, whatever, right? Just like when you're in a car and you take your foot off the gas pedal, it tends to pivot off the heel and go to the brake pedal because you're anticipating on slowing down. And maybe you don't have to actually use brake pressure, but you're anticipating, you're ready. Just like a Marine walking into a hostile area, they don't have they got a bullet in the chamber, they got their gun off safety, and they got their finger on the trigger guard, like ready to go. And you have to respect it, and you have to respect it and take it that serious, because it's a risky sport. And my philosophy is I don't take many things serious unless I need to take it serious. And motorcycling, you have to take serious and you have to respect. So the one technique would be, whenever something tells me to slow down or there's unpredictable variables, is one of two. One, whenever I go to close the throttle, I'm going to roll my fingers off to the brake lever. I'm not going to shut the throttle off and then reach for the brake lever. I'm always going to anticipate something and close my fingers to the brake lever, anticipating something. And two, if I'm in a busy area, I'm going to keep my controls covered, right? So I'm going to have my two fingers on the clutch lever, I'll have my two fingers on the brake, and I'll modulate low percentage throttle position, going through a parking lot, on a highway, whatever, just being ready for something. If you're in a back canyon road and you're not really going too fast, but maybe there's pedestrian crossings, maybe there's unpredictable animals, maybe there's whatever it is. So the big three things that are killing and hurting riders that new rider schools teach, that they just need to stop this, like stop this, is one, they get upset if you cover the controls, right? They teach this 4-on 4-off crap, garbage. Like, no. But what's weird though is that we ride bicycles and you talk to mountain bikers and road cyclists and everyone's covering their brakes, right? But no, you're riding a motorcycle that weighs over 300 pounds, 300 to 600 pounds, and can go from 10 to 100 miles per hour or 200 miles per hour. But no, we're gonna slow down that reaction time of slowing down. And a fun fact, that 45 miles per hour, you travel 66 feet per second. And on average, riders that are taught to close the throttle first and then reach for the brake lever take about 1.8 seconds. So you're covering about 150 feet, like half a football field, before you even touch the brakes.
Right.
Right. So covering the controls, rolling off to the brake lever, right? Learning, if you learn how to cover the controls, then naturally it feels natural that every time you close the throttle, it's natural that your fingers go to the levers to cover the controls. And then number three is that you use your brakes past tip-in, meaning that new rider schools teach, do all your brakes in a straight line, off the brakes go into the corner. There's people out there that teach brake gas turn. So you go to the brakes, you're done with the brakes, you accelerate into the corner. And if you look at how the best in the world do it, it's no, there is no turn. There is never a tightening radius, a corner that you enter as a pro that you're off the brakes before the bike is leaning over. Essentially, you're modulating brake pressure well into the corner where your knees on the deck, if you're on like a race machine. And if you're not on a race machine, still you're able to easily carry 30 to 40 degrees of lean angle while modulating brake pressure. So those would be the three things: covering the controls, rolling off to your controls, and using brakes past tip-in.
All right. So let's transition to you doing global tours, with Thailand Motor Tours. And did you do that before you met the guys from Thailand Motor Tours, or was that the first time you've really been a guide somewhere around the world?
So the first time I did guided tours was in Baja, actually, and it was like 2014, and I was a customer there, a client.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy that I was working with, Septien, he was pleased with my personable self and my writing ability. I wasn't nowhere near his level, but just consistent, chill. And then that kind of opened up opportunity, like, hey, if I could bring other friends here, like, can we work something out together? And he's like, yeah, I'll work with you. And it's funny because the way it worked with the Thailand Moto Tour guys, the founders are Brandon Cretu and Brian Diapese, which are also KYT North America, but they were TMT prior to that. A mutual friend put us in touch, and Brandon and I were talking. He's like, hey man, you should come to Thailand and ride a dirt bike off-road tour with us. And I was like, hey, you should come to Baja and do an off-road tour with me. And that was the agreement. It's like, all right, if you come to Baja, I'll go to Thailand. And it was great. It was was awesome. I mean, we're super homies. They became, you know, brothers and family. And it just started again, the community of two wheels. But I went there as a customer, and just so worked out. It was Brandon, Brian, and their other partner Bob. Bob was my co-guide for my tour, and after that tour, they had another tour, and Bob's like, "Man, I don't really care to go on this. Hey, that Mike guy seems like a pretty solid dude. Why don't you ask him to co-guide?" They're like, "Okay," and they asked me, and they're like, "Oh, right away, you're like, man, you're giving out rider tips. You communicate way more. Like, you know, you're so good with the people." And they're like, "You want to do this some more?" And then now here we are. I just finished my fourth season with them. I led my first on-road tour, and and it's been great. You know, been a lot of growth in the sport. You know, getting people from the States to Thailand, and Thailand, as you know, is just such a beautiful country, and I mean that in a much deeper perspective of not just visually beautiful in you know in terrain, but just in the people and the Buddhist culture, and just, you know, be good, see good, do good, and it's so safe over there. They're so kind. You know, you go through these villages where they have absolutely nothing, and somehow these people walk out with no shoes on their feet, and they can still greet you with a smile and a wave and ask you if you need anything. You know, it's like, where am I? You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Bobby and I say that if you want to be a good Christian, you should go to Thailand, even though they're Buddhists, most of them. The way they act toward people and treat people is the way that the Christians in the United States say that they should be. So we'll be at church and someone will ask us a question and we'll say, well, you should go to Thailand because that's how you're supposed to act.
That's awesome.
What's the wildest or most beautiful moment you ever experienced, say, in Thailand on a tour? Do you have
Um,
a moment that stands out?
uh, that one of the deepest experiences that I've had in Thailand on a tour.
Yeah.
I would say this is going to be really funny, but you know, it's easy to focus on the writing, but something I so enjoy is, at the end of the tour on Friday, we do before it was optional, but after I experienced it, I just started beating up Brian Diapese. We would do a Buddhism 101 talk on Friday just before lunch, and it's kind of like, hey guys, like checking in with everyone, sharing the culture, talking about Buddhism. Brian shares his story of kind of like the bridge of Western mindset to the Eastern Buddhist culture, and his experience of going from, you know, middle class family, growing up, doing the army thing, doing crazy shit as infantry, and then coming out of that and going down the rabbit hole of different world religions, and then coming across Buddhism and getting to Thailand, and you know, now he's married to his beautiful Thai wife, and you know, they have an awesome, you know, they're like the they're the standard of what people would hope and love for in a relationship. And I would say that Buddhism talk is something that I really look forward to, because it's such a grounding reflection moment, and it's real. It's real. It's you know, it's no mask, no nothing. He just goes up there and shares his story, and it's like, and yeah, that the amount of repeated emotions, tears, laughter, smiles, enlightenments are are way deeper and superior than, you know, wow, that was such a great road.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, you posted, you filmed him and then posted it. Recently, Henao and me and my wife and a bunch of people, we were in Oklahoma and Texas, and we were driving with Brian. And I said, you know what? The times I've been to Thailand, you've never done the story when I was there. He was like, really? So he told us the story, and as we drove to Texas. But I saw where you posted that on YouTube. I forget what you have it labeled as, but anybody wants to watch it, you can look it up on, I think it's at Hey Now Moto or something on your
Yep,
YouTube channel.
it's under the Henao Moto YouTube channel, and it's a Buddhism 101 with that Brian Dia piece hosted by Henao.
Yeah, it's a good watch and a good listen. Since you were talking about Thailand, a lot of the listeners probably will be Thailand Motor Tour riders or people that have gone on the tour. Tell us something about you that no one else knows.
Oof.
Or maybe you don't
Well,
want to.
right. Uh, well, not a lot of people know this, and it's an interesting fact, but I want to say this with a level of vulnerability that's and also a reflection of, like, live your life, make your choices, do what you do best, or do what you want to do. Be respectful to others, to yourself, and to a sport like motorcycling. But when I was 14, almost 15, I lost my mom, and she was a passenger on a motorcycle in the streets, and it was just a random tragic street accident where her and her partner at the time, not my father, but her and her partner at the time, both passed. And I got a lot of smack because I was right in the time when I was getting into motorcycling. I got the moped, then I got a scooter, and then TW200, RD350, then I got the Cowie. So it's kind of like this like stagger system. Every year or so, I saved up for something better. And I got a lot of family smack about that, and not a lot of people would think that I would go through all that, be where I'm at, do what I'm doing with that experience, as a teenager. So yeah, I share that from a very deep space, and then the privateer thing. A lot of people think that, oh, he's a trust fund kid, or maybe he was military retired, or whatever the stories people think. And it's like, nah, dude, like, I do this with pure heart. I want to grow and share the sport, and I just hope that I do a good enough job and give a good enough service that eventually the scales will tip, and I could even scale it to another level. I have a dream goal of having some kind of a facility where there's a track on site, and people could come, and it'll be like something legit, like a Valentino Rossi ranch. But the thing with Valentino Rossi is that it's private. He doesn't need it as an income, so he supports it for himself and whoever he wants to invite. I would love to have an opportunity to have a facility that supports the community, and it's not invite only. It's no, it's you want it, come.
Right.
And
Sort of like a
yeah,
Texas tornado boot camp, too.
yeah, dude, Texas Tornado Boot Camp is epic, man. I love that. But just something more into, actually, both. Little bikes, using little bikes, and dirt road course and a paved go-kart track. Sign
Yeah.
me up.
Yeah.
Where do I turn my life away?
I think previously at Texas Tornado that every once in a while they would take bikes to a go-kart track, but I think they stopped doing that. At least the 2 times or 3 times I've been there, they haven't done that. So that was a long time ago. Okay, let's wrap up the end. You're a high energy guy. I'm gonna say 2 words and real short answer. Say 5-second answer. Tell me which one. Pikes Peak or Daytona 200?
Oh, bro. I'm gonna go with Pikes Peak.
All right. Uh,
Yeah, but
Riding in Colorado or riding in Thailand?
ooh, I'm gonna go with Thailand.
Okay. Best trackside snack to keep your energy up?
Um, an epic girlfriend.
Okay.
But aside from that,
Yeah.
I'm a fan of coconut water and some kind of something like a coconut water and a fresh tuna salad.
Oh, okay.
hmm
What is one thing or tool every rider should have either in their bag or their toolbox?
I I mean, this is you would think this is pretty normal, but definitely a tire gauge. If you're racing, you should have a good tire gauge. You
All
should,
right.
and depending to what series. I mean, right? Because you could go down the rabbit hole of like, well, you need the screwdriver, you need the tensioner thing, but most important variable on a motorcycle are the tires, right?
Yeah.
So just,
Tire pressure. Yep.
you know,
Okay. Describe the Hey Now riding style in 3 words.
Send and Zen, baby.
All right. Well,
So,
Michael, thank you for the time. If people in Colorado area want some lessons or to contact you about the Henao Moto, where should they go and how can they contact you?
yes, so social media, pretty much I have the name tag in all platforms, Henao Moto. So Instagram, Henao Moto, Henao Moto at gmail.com, Henao Moto, pretty much anything, and you'll find me. And if that's training in Colorado, I'm actually starting tours in Colorado this summer, true Rocky Mountain tours where it's explores all the Rockies, Million Dollar Highway, all across, staying somewhere different. Essentially the same formula and blueprint that TMT is so special for. I'm incorporating that in the Rocky Mountains,
Oh, awesome.
along with the series and everything like that. Yeah, yeah. If you and Bobby want to come out, like, let me know, man. That'd be pretty cool. Jesse's going to be out. And on that note, it feels nice to be in a position to say, make a joke about having an epic girlfriend, but recently got in pursuing a relationship, and it's a nice feeling to have a partner like that in your corner, and Jesse and I are actually going to start the tour thing together.
Awesome. Yeah. Every time I try to get a hold of you, you're always talking to her. So
There you go. Proof is in the pudding, baby.
that's why I said good night, Jesse, when I was trying to get a hold of you. All right. Well, I really appreciate it. And like I said, I'll put my opening at the front, so you'll be surprised with that. Bobby will be mad. She wanted to do part of the interview with me, but I think together we're going to do interview with Jesse.
Oh, sure.
So this is sort of a test run. And yeah, I appreciate you spending the time, and you have a great time at Champ School. And if I can ever get out there, I'd like to do some mini moto with you.
Make it happen, dude. You got the calendar. The IMI rounds are going to be epic. We got the MotoAmerica boys coming into town. STK being the man to beat, putting in some pro cash or some big cash prizes on the pro class. And yeah, dude. Mark, I appreciate your time as always. It's nice catching up with you, buddy, and look forward to some more two-wheel throttle therapy wherever we may meet in the world or US. And yeah, until next time, amigo.
All right.
Appreciate you.
All right. See you later.
Take care. Ciao, ciao.
In closing, as we always do with Two Wheels, Many Blessings, try to find a Bible verse that kind of supports the essence of the person that we've just interviewed. And given Henao's free-spirited nature, a verse that kind of resonated with me was Isaiah 40:31. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Thanks for listening to Two Wheels, Many Blessings. We'll see you out on the road.